this is the formula sheet for the AP Physics exam. For those of you that aren't in AP Physics, or maybe you are and you still don't understand a thing, this might look about as legible as the notes from Bobo, the monkey that was taught to write. See, I joined AP Physics despite the fact that part of me and many around me thought it was the kind of bad decision only excusable if made by Bobo, the monkey that was taught to write. See, I'm definitely more of an arts and humanities gal, and let's just say I'm the only kid in the class that's not in calculus. But something about physics fascinates me beyond all the confusing math. The language and the principles seemingly mirror different aspects of everyday life. For example, the concept of inertia, an object's tendency to do nothing or remain unchanged. This is clearly illustrated every morning when I have to get out of bed. With the idea of impact in mind, I was drawn to this relationship between the confusing principles of physics and the confusion of reality. With Newton's second law in mind, it's time to set things in motion. So we're gonna need a force. I'm gonna paint you all a picture of what it was like at the low-brow, kitschy nightmare that emerged from the second job I took on one summer. But before I begin, I wanna make one thing clear. I'm not here to complain about something life-shattering. In fact, even as Brentwood's resident cynic, I'd say too much negativity comes out of minor difficulties. Come on, are you really gonna drop out of school because there's no Eggs Benny in the calf this week, or you didn't get a part in the school musical? However, to avoid spouting truisms without providing a backbone of sympathy, I'm gonna have to be a hypocrite and complain for a second. Melodrama intended. My old boss looked like a stuffed toad you might win at a carnival. She had spider-like limbs that extended away from her bulbous torso, twigs punctuated by spindly nicotine-stained fingers. Her yellowed claws were the results of the multitudes of cigarettes she hungrily smoked. To protect her anonymity, let's pretend her name was Pam. See, I always imagined Pam's chapped amphibian lips and straw-like blonde hair as I struggled up the large hill looming before the entrance to Destiny Beach Resort. Yes, funnily enough, that was its real name. I would always grit my teeth and whisper, at least it's just a summer job. See, as you heard, I'm from Osoyoos, BC, Canada's only desert. Have any of you heard of it? Yeah. I'm surprised. It's the place where I spent the first 16 years of my life. And for those of you who don't know, don't worry, you're one of many. It's the kind of place that's a small vacation town. See, the population triples in the summer as tourists congeal to the lakeside. Now, my granny and papa owned a motel in my preschool days, not unlike Destiny Beach Resort. It was called the Bella Villa, and it was the reason that I grew up in the kindergarten-sized sandbox that is Osoyoos. Unfortunately, Destiny Beach did not exactly have the fun nostalgia factor I was hoping it would. The routine was always the same at the resort. Clock in, salute Pam, check the board to see how many rooms I needed to turn over by the end of the day, and begin the arduous task of cleaning up the grubby residue of bachelorette party winos and sand-covered toddlers, all alone with subpar air conditioning. Remember the Canada's only desert part. The funky odors and disgusting left-behinds made the hours drip by with the viscosity of room-temperature bitumen. I had to clear pee-stained sheets off of beds almost daily. But you know what? Destiny Beach and ultimately Osoyoos was a thoroughly impactful learning experience. No, not because I encounter pee-stained sheets often, although boarding school and preschool do have their similarities. After every impact, there is a rebound. Determination was infused into my skin during those long, sweaty shifts. Using the minor amount of physics my brain has been able to comprehend, I want to illustrate this idea. In a collision, regardless of the mass or velocity of both objects, they push against each other with equal force. Though objects may swerve off course, the law of conservation of momentum states that no momentum is lost, merely transferred. Object 1 gains momentum as a result of object 2. See, we push back against our problems no matter how much mass they have. We harness the ability of what we learned in the process to send us flying towards the rest of our life. But wait, I'm leaving out some major elements of this equation. The formula I presented to you is incomplete because it fails to take into account that the world is not a closed system. There's hundreds of others flying past you with their own emotionally charged velocities. And that's just it. There's emotion. It's hard to shake the distinct tinge of past trauma from your own momentum. With any acceleration you gain, there's that heavy mass weighing you down. People are constantly colliding, and they blame whoever interfered with their trajectory, ignoring the fact that someone or something must send those who hit you flying in the first place. But the truth is, I have real trouble shaking the resentment from an impact. I know I went hurtling away from a Soyuz with no desire to look back. But, see, we need to learn how to move past this and look to the future, to a place where we aren't held back by the mass that keeps us down, and that we aren't pushed into a corner where we have to force to look at everything that we've done in a light that is only negative. A Soyuz, and the stagnancy that comes with living in a small town left me ravenous for new experience. The label of other that was attached to me in adolescence, me, a crayon in a box of matches, is the root of pushing myself within everything that I do. But all of that would mean nothing without the ability to scrub away residual resentment. I know, it's hard to reroute that anger. But according to a little thing called thermodynamics, energy can't be created or destroyed, so it's probably a good idea to find out how. Hitting a ball, writing a poem, apologizing to someone you love. I know it's corny, but these are all ways of harnessing the acceleration of misfortune. I know when I paint, I morph my own wobbly uncertainties about myself, my past, and the horizon in the distance into something tangible, even grounding. So my task for you is to find ways to harness the rebound one can gain from negative impacts. Funnel that disappointment and annoyance into acceleration. I could have used this talk as a 15-minute roast fest, left a Soyuz in my turbulent history at a crispy well done. But something happens when we learn to control our reaction to adversity. We expose ourselves to our environment and create a coefficient of friction. I know, it's been a lot of physics, but I need you to listen to this last point here, because this force that I'm talking about is important. Mitigating that fight or flight response creates a metaphorical stickiness that gives us power over future impacts. That friction keeps you from going out of control. The threat you pose to those whizzing past you on journeys of their own is far smaller. And I know that's my goal at the end of all this, to find a balance between utilizing the rebound and composing myself with grace. Ideally, that friction I just described will bring you to a stop, so you can look back and, in spite of all that's happened, admire how far you've come. Thank you.